Hello, good evening. This is Module 12, Testing and SQL. Basically, the module was about creating API endpoints and making sure that they are testing the API endpoints. I will start from the end, from the tests to the APIs. I wanted to do this also because at some point after I'd created about 6 of my APIs, 2 of them kept failing, the ones in API/order. And so when I took the test-driven development approach, I was able to quickly iron out what the issues were and what issues I was not catching while I was creating the endpoint. So I found that pretty cool, and I wanted to start with that. So the first thing is tests are supposed to be like practice runs. They make sure that the endpoints work even if there is no data or services for the endpoint, just to make sure that all the data and that is supposed to be there is actually working properly. The first test was the restaurant controller test. I have been doing the tests in my terminal because the extensions I had were not working. So I have been doing the tests in the terminal. There were 2 tests for the restaurant. Number one, there was a post test and there was a post and a put test, and there they are. They both run and they're successful. Likewise, the second test was related to the orders. They were both for get orders and post orders. These were 6 tests because the get orders, the success and the failure, had the restaurant, courier, and customer test. They're testing each of them, the success and the failure. And as you can see, they both work. Now, moving into the APIs, I will now let me start my server before we move into the APIs. Moving into the APIs, the first API that we were supposed to work on was the API for authorization, the auth API. I will open the controller here. It's supposed to help you create authorization, basically generate a JWT token for security purposes to make sure that anybody who is not authorized is not able to access the database if they do not have the correct token. So what we can do, we can take Cecil, I'll copy that and go and use Postman to create a new request, and the request that we are having is a post, basically to create a new authorization here. So the post requires that when a user is trying to create authorization, that the user must have an email and a password, which is what we're about to create right now, and wait for the response, the response is supposed to be that a token has been created. So we will change this to our guy Cecil, and his password is 15. His password is 15. And it is a post, and we will send it and wait for the success for that. So the token has been created successfully, and he is in here. Secondly, the next endpoint that you were supposed to work on was a get endpoint. In the restaurants, this get endpoint, expand those. The get /API/restaurant is supposed to handle restaurant filtering and retrieval. It's supposed to bring a response to the client which filters restaurants by their rating and by their price. So it is a get when it does not need a body, and when we go here, the request is /restaurants. It's supposed to bring us a list of restaurants. When you look at that, it brings a list of restaurants that are available in our database, all of them. The next endpoint that's supposed to work on was the getting the restaurants, but in this time getting a specific restaurant. So the path param for that was the ID of the restaurant. Let's say we want to get restaurant number 5. We can go in, type in 5 in the path parameter or in the HTTP request, and it brings us the name of the restaurant, the rating, and the price as well. So finding specific restaurants. The next API was a post API endpoint, and this endpoint was supposed to authorize users and allow users to create new restaurants within the system. So I will get some data that we can do this with, and just try and remove this filter. And this is a post restaurant. We can try to do some edits here. Just some data. Price range before. Change the address. And when we do that, let's post, and the address is there and all the information is there. When I do that, and when we create that, it says success, it has been created, and we can check our database and the restaurants just to ensure it has been created. Refresh that, and here is Milamo. The next endpoint was the put endpoint, which basically edits restaurant information in case there's some information that has been entered that we want to change some aspect about it. And for this, we will choose maybe what restaurant number 18, for example, to go and do some edits about. And data we will enter here to delete this and create new data for that area, for that region. So leave this nation. We said we are editing restaurant number 12. In our database, it is oh sorry, no, it's not 21. In the database, it's test restaurant, and we'll see whether the name changes to that. The message here is success. It has changed the name to nation. That is restaurant number 21, and if we check that, the name has changed to nation. The next endpoint that I worked on is the delete endpoint, basically deleting the record of a restaurant from the system, and once again it uses the restaurant ID for that. So maybe we can try and delete Villa Wellington here. Restaurant ID is number 29. If we do that, it does not require anything in the body. And we say we are deleting. Success is that it has been deleted. Check our database, and indeed, Villa Wellington, the first one, I think there was a request response. It was ID 29 that has been deleted. The next endpoint was the get products endpoint. So when we work on the get products endpoint, basically that is in this controller. Basically what we're trying to do is like finding out what menu items exist in a particular restaurant. That's the most basic way to say it. So if maybe customers are viewing this on our web page, they can be able to see via the restaurant ID, what products actually do exist in the restaurant. So going via, we can go via the path, the query param, which for this is restaurant, and maybe we want restaurant number, let's see, restaurant number 7. Restaurant number 7 to check, we see what menu items they have, and not only that, also how much that they could cost. The next is the post. Basically, it's this endpoint was supposed to update the progress of an order. For example, if a customer orders, is the dish that they've ordered pending? Is it in progress? Has it been delivered? It is all updated on the system. So it is basically that endpoint is a post, which is here. The endpoint is a post. So sorry about that. That's not product. It's supposed to be an order endpoint, not a product endpoint. So it's a post. So when we go to the post and we want to work on the order and check what the status is. For example, from our database, we have order number 20. Let's pick one of the orders which are already in order number 12. So if we come here to work on order number 12 and we want to work on the status, first we have to in the body move the status from whatever it is, and maybe from pending to delivered, because we saw it from pending. So we want to move it to delivered, and that's the post. Number 2, status, change the status. It has changed here to delivered, and if we look here, it was at 2, which is pending, and now 3 delivered. Next endpoint was to check all the orders. It is a get endpoint. No, sorry. It is a get endpoint to check all the orders, and all these orders can be checked via type, either via restaurant, via courier, or customer. We will try it out with customer. Remove this body params, get API orders, and if we go to the params and get the type is customer, and the ID of the customer is probably, let's just pick a random number 2 customer, we can be able to see what that customer ordered and what the costs are. The last endpoint was a post endpoint, which was supposed to help the user to be able to place an order, basically any order that a user wants. So the information which is required for this endpoint includes things like the name of the customer, the restaurant ID, the customer ID, whatever products they want, etc. So what I will do is post, and the post API orders. If we go to the body to input information, what I also learned about this is that we have to adjust the values here, otherwise it refuses to take in information as is. If we look at restaurants, no, let's look at products. Product ID 19 comes from restaurant number 5. Maybe we could do that. And products number 22, 19 and 22. So we can do products 19 and 22 coming from restaurant number 5. Right. Then we request for that, and it gives us success, and it tells us all the products have been ordered, they're now pending, and the customer information also shows up there. So that was the last endpoint, and this has been quite interesting. I have learned quite a lot about how to work around APIs and endpoints, and mostly how to work with the approach from the testing. That was quite interesting. I didn't know that before. Thank you.